Good morning. I'm having an early start today. It's a busy week, and it's a balmy 7 degrees outside. And usually on the weekends, I have a beer or two with some friends and family. And I'd like to talk about beer today instead of the fact that it's 7 degrees outside here in Pittsburgh. Now, beer has been an integral part of civilization. Contrary to popular belief, the Germans didn't invent it. It was actually started in the Middle East, and it helped to build the Sumerian, Babylonian civilizations, Nineveh, and also the ancient civilization of Egypt. In fact, the pyramids were built primarily with beer. The people who worked on it were not slaves. They were regular Egyptians who were trying to send their king and their god onto a better life and having a good time of it too. And according to one historian, the blocks that were used weighed several tons, literally floated into place because of beer. Now later on, during the Middle Ages, people were able to sustain themselves and keep from dying of basically Montezuma's revenge throughout the Middle Ages by relying on beer. You couldn't trust the water. And in Beowulf, though, if you recall the poem, Rothman and his men were hanging out in his mead hall, not a beer hall. Now, mead is made out of fermentation of honey and water, and it showed that they weren't quite as proficient in agriculture to have large harvest of barley in order to make the beer. But eventually they were able to switch over to that, and it prevented people from contracting something in the water and dying. So it sustained us throughout the Middle Ages, and it also influenced the founding of at least one of the colonies here in the United States. The Pilgrims were actually on their way in the Mayflower to Virginia, but they ran into a problem. It was a terrible emergency. They ran out of beer, so they had to stop someplace in New England to brew some more beer and decided to stay. And you can see the influence of beer on our lives with the bars, and as I wrote about my grandfather, who actually owned a bar. Unfortunately, he drank up the profits because of it. But beer itself has been able to inspire many things, including the American Revolution, and it was also where in a pub actually, in Philadelphia, that the Marine Corps were founded. Now, some bad things have come out of beer halls. There's a beer hall push in Munich that Hitler organized and led his drunken rabble out into the streets to take over the local government there in Munich of Bavaria so he could rule it as an independent country. Unfortunately, they ran right into reality in the form of the local police and an armed group of the German army. And so Hitler was thrown into jail and was given basically a government-funded vacation so he could write Mein Kampf. But again, who was Hitler? Hitler was actually a man who drank non-alcoholic beer and was a vegetarian. No wonder he was so miserable. But many things have come from beer, and we have proven that the government cannot regulate us even in our drinking, because Prohibition was actually an amendment to the Constitution that we had to rescind because it was not workable. And beer has helped to keep us going even in the worst of times, like the Great Depression, and even nowadays with all the problems we have. And here in Pittsburgh, we're feeling a little low because we're not going to the Super Bowl this year, and we don't have much of a choice on Sunday. San Francisco, well, if they win their sixth Super Bowl ring, and they actually tie us. That's a little bit of a concern to us. But we hate Baltimore. And Baltimore, the Ravens, are named after a poem written by a man who spent a lot of time drinking and writing short stories. So, what can we do? We can just enjoy life, have a couple of beers, and look forward to tomorrow. And I will look forward to talking with you tomorrow on another subject. Thank you.